Burnout. Why is this word trending? And I know it's January, it's after the holidays. I feel like a lot of us have rested and are now back at work, like, ugh, this feels tiring. And back in December, I've just noticed this as a trend with a lot of my clients, friends, myself, feeling burnt out. And now that the holidays is over and we're back, it's like, oh, clarity. In fact, I don't know if you saw on social media, the trending word right now is bed rot, bed rotting, actually. Yeah. It was happening over the holidays where I saw people like, oh, I'm just bed rotting. I'm like, oh, what an interesting word. I mean, before it was like, I'm just Netflixing and chilling, which is, I know, another term. Anyways, I am digressing. I need to go back to what I wanted to talk about, which is burnout, because it has been a consistent thing I've been hearing. Unfortunately, I feel like in the past decade, 2020s, you ain't my favorite. Let me just say, well, can we just go back to the 90s? But anyways, burnout, it's real. And what if it's because, and I'm not saying you are the reason why. I mean, I know there's other factors, like maybe your work has gone through layoffs, maybe you have to hit some numbers, but a question to consider is, what if you're over available to everyone else and not to yourself? You know, you're just over available to work, family decisions, urgency, and deadlines that were actually not yours, but you still did them because the reality, and I share this because I relate, you love being dependable. Like last year, I proclaimed, and I haven't been good at it in terms of other things, but I'll explain later. Last year, I proclaimed I'm going to work with 15 clients at one time. And I have met that goal. But to be honest, everything else, like how I planned my day, my week, my months, it didn't feel like it because I did not put boundaries in place. I'm like, okay, people are just going to call me whenever. And yes, I know I put podcast episodes out there. Like I have CEO days, Mondays. Well, I'm going to call myself out or call myself in. I have not been committing myself to it. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of using this podcast as a recommitment to myself where let's put some boundaries in place. Because end of last year, I was feeling tired and I actually did the math. And I realized, okay, well, I work with my clients one-on-one doing 2 calls a month. And with 15 clients, including doing sales calls or, connection calls with the partnerships with my B2B contracts, where I only work with 5 max, I only do 8 to 10 calls a week. And the reality, I could probably put all those 8 to 10 calls, like 4 calls on one day and 4 calls on another day, like 2 full days of calls. So I had to ask myself the hard question that maybe you need to ask yourself, why was I making myself available at all times to everyone? And knowing that, I'm like, okay, let me create some boundaries. No calls on Mondays, no calls Wednesday and Friday mornings, because this sounds very LA of me. I am focused on doing hot yoga. It feels so good to be present and do the same 26 poses. I do a practice called 26 by 2, but doing the hot yoga at 6:30 in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And if you've been listening to me for a while, I usually do Muay Thai, which is Thai kickboxing, but I just needed a break from that because that's a lot of energy to put out. And I just need my body in stillness. So I've been talking a lot about myself, but really, this podcast is for you to help you realize, hey, maybe you also need the permission, reassurance, and knowing that you're not alone when it comes to creating boundaries and structure without guilt. And don't worry, this episode's not a fix yourself episode. I am not that. My intention is for you to be self-aware and notice, because once your body and mind clicks, like recognizes how over available you are, you just cannot unsee it. Like I cannot unsee it. Like, what am I doing, Elaine? And right now my eyes are wide open. Girl, what have you been doing with your whole time? So grab your tough coffee, tea, and boba, and let's drop the beat. Like I said, I'm going to share my story. I actually just got off a call with a client I've been working with for several months. She's amazing. And we were going actually through a block on her wanting to write more things, but it feels aggressive and she doesn't want to seem like she's self-promoting. But I was like, but you like my emails and content, and what makes it different? She's like, well, you're sharing stories and that makes it more real. So in this episode, I know just even based off feedback from my client, sharing my story will help you know that you are not alone. So I'm not sharing how I'm perfect and amazing, but even sharing my thought process of what I've had to unlearn and relearn. Because there's a reason why you clicked on this episode and pressed play. So last week, I had a call with my own coach. I've been working with her for about a year and a half and reflected on wins, not just financial wins, but energetic wins. And she shared, Elaine, you've been so grounded and focused. And I've heard the same thing recently from my therapist too, after my birthday. Like, Elaine, like you just seemed really grounded. And if you're thinking, Elaine, you have a coach and therapist, girl, I need all the help I can get. I got goals. I also got trauma. And I just value my sanity and I'm mindful of being human. So here's the conditioning that I don't think all of us are mindful of, especially as women, or if you're a woman of color, what we're taught in our society, in our culture, that we're always thinking about others, our families, other people, everyone else's needs, and to think about ourselves last. Now, in my late 20s, I did a lot of work in therapy with EMDR, which is a great type of therapy, as well as internal family systems. And I could link a podcast episode I did on EMDR, but I did a lot of work around personal boundaries, saying no to every family gathering, not having to go to all events, even put everything together. Like, okay, I could meet up and do all these things, and learning to choose rest. In fact, I'll be honest, yesterday it was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, or King's Day. And I was part of a parade and I was supposed to go see a friend who I haven't seen in a couple of years, was going to go hang out and walk with her around her new home. And I was like, oh, I could see her after. But I also told her, can we just play by ear? Let's see how it goes. Okay, I was up at 5 a.m. and I was out in the sun until 1. I was tired. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't see you. I'm just tired. I was like, yeah, you were overachieving there. And I was like, yeah, I was pretty much too ambitious. So I say this because I also catch myself. Like I know I'm saying like, hey, put boundaries, but your girl is still working on this stuff. And even though I've been able to put boundaries and structure around my personal life, what surprised me is realizing I have not been doing the same with my work, especially because I work for myself. Maybe a lot of you could relate, or if you're an executive and up there, because there's always this voice, right? Like, I need more money. I should be available. And I understand, honestly, my life has been rewarding me for being reactive. And maybe you relate. I'm the oldest daughter of a Filipino immigrant farmer, holding space for everybody, all generations, not just their problems and issues, but all the gossip, aka chismis, which is gossip in Tagalog, and being praised for being reliable and flexible, working on political campaigns, becoming a director at 21 because I was so good at putting out fires. I mean, I'm the oldest daughter, of course I was. And then raising $11 million as a former fundraiser because I could anticipate the needs and manage relationships really well. So of course I thought, okay, if it's been successful my whole life, I could bring this in this business, in this coaching business. And don't worry, like I said, I've been learning how to unlearn all of this. So this is how my over availability has been showing up at work, mind you, my whole life. But I've been really unlearning it this past year, where I'm just going to warn you, this sounds very tiring of what I'm going to list. Back-to-back calls with no space to integrate and reflect, feeling completely fried after networking events, creating content, but there's no creative joy, and then constant pressure to be responsive very quickly. In fact, I'm kind of feeling guilty right now, but I was supposed to send out a proposal to someone who I did a call with 4 days ago, but it was MLK Day weekend and I'm tired. And I will do it in an energetic time, which will most likely be later today. I am thinking out loud of what I have to do in this podcast, I realize. So listening all of that, I'm just tired. Okay, and don't judge me, promise, because when I started my business in 2017, that was 8 years ago, and this is my second business, I was doing 50 calls a week. I was also younger and had a lot of energy, and that used to feel normal. And I felt like it wasn't a lot before. And I say that because before that, when I was a former community organizer, I was doing 12-hour call days as a community organizer. But over the years, I have been peeling things back, and I can finally admit that I can't do the deep work, the reflection, the content, looking at my numbers by being constantly available at the same time. And maybe you feel that way too. The reason why I have people that want to come work with me, because they kind of have that little voice telling them, there is something just not working with here at work. I think I need a career transition, or there's just something not working here in my business. It just doesn't feel good to me. There's always that small little voice, but we ignore it by doing work, which is like a drug. When in reality is like, there's the reason why there's that voice. And then allowing ourselves to integrate and reflect. Sometimes there's past trauma that we need to work on, which I definitely recommend a therapist working on. Or maybe you've already done the healing, currently doing the healing, and you want to also work with a coach. Like, I need to create a plan that feels aligned to me. Now, I don't know if you know this about me, but I have a bachelor's in cognitive sciences. So I have become obsessed recently on understanding the science behind why we are wanting to use busyness and work as a drug when we don't want to deal with what we realize we want to switch or change. And every time, so I want to talk about kind of like multitasking. It's like, oh, I could do everything in a day, right? Like I said, I was on a call with a client and I was sharing, she has a conference that was supposed to be in person, now is virtual. So she has a lot of time to create content creation because she's been finding it hard to find pockets of time. But the reality is context switching is really hard. Every time you jump from one task to another, your brain has to switch gears. And that switch, I want you to hear, is not instant. Research says it could take around 23 minutes just to really focus again after an interruption. That also includes when you want to take your phone out and check those quick emails or go on social media and look at cat and dog memes. I'm calling myself out because I do that because they're not quick. You have to reorient yourself. That's why my phone, like even recording this podcast episode, it is like in a bookshelf so I don't have to reach it. Because if it's near me, my brain's like, just in case I want to go look at it. So the way I like thinking of this as a metaphor, think of your brain like an AOL dial-up, the do. I forgot. What is the AOL sound? I clearly forgot. Millennials, you know what I'm talking about. If you're younger than me, you won't know what I'm talking about. But back in the day, when we had to go online, it would load and it would take a long time. I'm not saying about like Apple having a new system and just waiting for a couple minutes. Like it was like a whole thing. I know this episode is so good. And you're like, how can I get more of this? Well, I have a newsletter that comes out every Thursday that's free, fun, and full of real talk. It's a live journal Zanga on leadership and life with actual scripts, behind the scenes stories, and lessons from mistakes I've made so you don't have to for work and life. Just go to elainelou.com/join. That's ELAINELOU.com/join. All right, back to the episode. So when you're available all day long, it's not just annoying, it quietly drains your brain, going from doing a phone call to writing an email to doing whatever it is, a little here, a little there. until by the end of the day, you're just fully exhausted and you don't even know why. And here's what I do now. And I share this not as a template, but as an example to hopefully inspire you to think about your schedule as well. In the morning, I journal while making coffee, even if it's just one sentence, where it's, oh, I noticed that in this conversation, this came up. I go to hot yoga, I shower, eat, check my email. I know it's like, Elaine, I don't want to hear your diary, but I think what's important for you to notice is that in the mornings, I focus on the deep work. I am recording this podcast episode at 10:32 a.m. And it's for me to record, to create content, prepare for my presentations, or even review my P&Ls, follow up on projects, follow up on leads, reflecting on calls and projects of what's aligned and not. And then after lunch, I do calls for max. And mind you, like, Elaine, you just said that you just had a client call this morning. Okay, well, it was MLK Day yesterday, so I took the whole day off. So it was a little different today. So I'm saying that I'm not perfect at it, but I'm just mindful of my energy because I realized I was just doing the most. For example, last year when there would be a sales call, it's like, oh, I need to work on a proposal, but I just couldn't get my energy there. So now I realize I need to work on the proposal the next day when my brain is fresh. Because here's the reality. When you're on calls, your brain is on social mode. I know it's kind of like, there's the dark mode, white mode on your phone or computer. I'm on social mode, right? Listening, reading tone, responding in real time. That's a different type of capacity in your brain compared to if you're proposal writing on emails, looking at your P&L report. It requires a completely different brain state, focus, structure, and working memory. So switching too fast between, let's say, doing a call to, I need to look at my P&L report, it comes with a real cost, which is, like I said earlier, 23 minutes of waiting for your brain to realign. So instead of forcing it, I let things settle in. Even putting buffers in between my calls, I'm like, oh, let me reflect on that. For example, this past month, I had 2 sales calls where I realized it's not a good fit with these people. Not saying I'm better than them, but I reflected, okay, why was it not a good fit? We just didn't have chemistry, or I would not be the right person for them with the goals that they have. It was important for me to reflect. And that's why it's important for you to also reflect on things. There will be data and information for you to listen to. And I've been focused on honoring my brain. And what I want you to hear is this. Try honoring your brain and your time. My brain got really good to being addicted to being busy, responsive, and always on. But in this phase of my life, it's not about pushing harder. It's about retraining my brain and system to trust that simple can be excellent, focusing at one thing at a time. And once I stopped my brain from multitasking, everything has just gotten more clear. I'm less exhausted, more fulfilled, doing deeper, more meaningful work. And how has this shown up? You're like, okay, well, I want to know the ROI. Well, this past year, I realized that there has been a project I have been avoiding, I will say avoiding in the past year, that has given me a 5,000% ROI. And I haven't been doing it, not because I was lazy, but because I was just overwhelmed. Last year, I cut a lot of things that I didn't need. So I needed to focus on that. And the result of cutting things I didn't need in my business that wasn't helping my clients led to a 214% profit margin. And this year, because I've been pausing more, like I said, the full Mondays, Wednesday mornings and Friday mornings, no calls, I've already hit 75% of my revenue from last year. And that's because I've been updating my website and content to actually reflect who I am after major speaking engagements and pitch competitions from speaking to 10,000 plus people in Dubai. I felt like my website and my content, I even just recently, if you haven't noticed, if you've been listening to me for a while, just updated my podcast cover. It reflected who I was 8 years ago, not who I am now. I've also took time to listen to feedback from my clients, both positive and things to improve on how I could be better in my services, which is why I have 300 plus client reviews. So I know I'm talking about the money, the business side, but on the personal level, which is my favorite, my ability to self-regulate has honestly changed everything. I'm calmer and not in the zen all the time. Elaine, you're just from LA, but just more grounded, not using busyness as a distraction. Like 20 and 30-year-old me would be like, who is this? I notice my trigger soon. Like when I feel that urge to want to grab my phone, the second something feels uncomfortable, waiting on an email, coming off a call, feeling uncertain, I catch it. I let it sit. I'm like, okay, I just feel it. Don't distract, because I know that there's information or I need to process it out as well. And when I'm angry or sad, I don't immediately try to turn it into something productive, which I usually do. And maybe you relate like, oh, that was just a horrible meeting. Well, I don't want to think about it. I need to work on something else. I don't try to coach myself out of it. I let myself be there, especially when, ladies, when it's that time of month, when my energy is lower. And I've stopped treating that as a problem that needs fixing and just is. That calmness has changed how I've led. I'm not reacting as fast just to feel a relief. I just give myself more time before responding and more space before deciding. And honestly, I trust myself more. I don't force clarity to happen quickly within 5 minutes. I need to figure this out. I've learned that just when I'm more calm and regulated, clarity just shows up on its own. Now, here's a shift I want to share. The real shift wasn't more discipline. It was making sure it was less access to me, more boundaries, no calls on Mondays. I protected my mornings, the deep work first, seeing hot yoga not as a workout, but as self-regulation, as a way to calm my system so I could actually be present with my breath, with my work, with people. And here's what's happened: more clarity, better thinking, better relationships, healthier finances, less pushing. And the discomfort of slowing down, that discomfort has helped me be a human being and not a human doing. So, I love ending with reflective questions to think about. So here are a couple. 1, what are you over available out of habit? And 2, where is your energy being accessed without much thought? 3, what could open up if you just stopped rushing clarity? And if right now you're realizing you're so burnt out, maybe you are just being over available. And congrats to you for catching that, for clicking on this podcast episode to listen to. So take time to feel uncomfortable, journal those questions if you need, go rewind a little bit. And I'm excited to see this calmer version of you where you're not burnt out and you are available to your needs. I hope, as a fellow high achiever, I did not trigger you. And if this episode clicked, I hope you just let it sit. Give yourself time and space to think about things. And if you're at a place where you want support thinking things through, from boundaries, leadership, work, and life, you can book a call with me. We'll see if it's a good fit. And you could schedule the call at elainelou.com/call. That's ELAINELOU.com/call. And if you enjoyed this podcast episode, hey, share this with a friend or two. Send them the message. I listened to this. Like, I know you're feeling burnt out. You need to listen to this, and this is why. And if you found this podcast episode extremely helpful, me and my team would appreciate if you could leave a 5-star rating review. It actually helps this podcast reach more people who needs to listen to it so they know they're not alone. So remember, if you're feeling burnt out, you don't need to keep being over available. Just put yourself first. Talk soon.